Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Dickens and Quips, the podcast that takes the Byron, more like, by God, this is long-winded, out of poetry. Join me, Dee Dickens, as I wander around showing you a world that isn't only populated by old, dead, white men. And it's week 2. I have to say I was overwhelmed by the support that this little podcast got last week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was a very surreal day. Podcast went live and then I got rushed into hospital on launch day with gallstones and an infected gallbladder, which is as nasty as it sounds. At some point, I'm going to have to write a poem about my hospital stay and being hospitalised during COVID pandemic. But at the moment, it would be a one-word poem, and that one word would be, ow! So, anyway, this week, I have the amazing poet Joe Thomas with me. Joe is a Welsh poet and writer. He has also recently just started performing his poetry publicly after attending a slam event earlier this year. His poetry often explores the theme of being different. Joe is currently working on a collection filled with poetry that looks at this topic, which is based off his lived experiences. Now, as well as being a phenomenal poet who writes intriguing verse, Joe is one of my closest friends and one of the best human beings on the planet. His poetry is full of quiet observations of the world, and they're as hard-hitting as they are gentle. So you are in for a real treat later. But for now, say hi, Joe.
Hi everyone.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited to have you on. I'm really, really pleased. So in the segment, What You Reading, Dee? This week I have been reading and revisiting, actually, How to Carry Fire by Christina Thatcher. I will stick a link in the show notes to where you can get this book from. Christina's poetry is a gut punch. She writes about death and an addiction in a way that's raw, honest, and ethereal all at the same time. She just grabs you by the throat and whispers at you. In that way, she and Joe have a similar effect, even though their work is very different. She is the facilitator of the writing group I belong to, and she was my dissertation supervisor at uni, and I adore her. I don't want to say too much more because she's actually going to be on the show next week, and I'm so excited, but she is one of the most wholesome people you will ever meet. So, which poem? This is the bit where I read a poem. I struggled. I really, really struggled because they're all so beautiful and dark in their own way. I don't actually have a favourite, which is just a really weird thing with a poetry collection. I don't have one that jumps out. I narrowed it down to 3 and then decided, well, it's my podcast, so I can do what I like. So I'm going to read 2 of them because I can. So there. So the first one is called An Improper Kindness. Let me just find it. I did write down the page numbers because, like, plan to prepare and all prepare and something or other, I don't know. So, An Improper Kindness is a love letter to her brother who is an addict. It's almost sensual in its sibling intimacy and questions whether it's kinder just to let someone go than to keep them here unhappy. So after I've read this one, we'll have a quick chat about it if that's all right with you, Joe.
Yeah, that is good. Thanks.
Awesome. So An Improper Kindness. Leave rehab. Come sit on my knee like you did when you were my much littler brother, so I can tell you of a place where the bricks of our childhood's homes still stand, the kitchen smelling sweet of pumpkin pie and whipped cream. In this place, our first pups and geese gather. It takes away the pain in teeth and brain, stays blue-skied and cloudless. When someone speaks, it makes sense. And when they smile, nothing is confusing. Everyone is kind, and there are no exceptions, no expectations. You don't have to be a man. I know I shouldn't be telling you this now, should only speak of this place when you're old and rightfully dying. Now I should say you must start again with new medicine, new job, new girl, new family, new home. But you are so tired, and the light of the halcyon place is getting brighter and warmer, coming just into reach. And so I tell you to go. Open the door. Be happy. So, if you could see Joe's
Wow.
face, yeah.
Um,
The whole idea of it being an improper kindness
yeah.
is...
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go on, Joe. What do you think?
I also really love the idea that when they're aligning, it's something like there's no expectations.
Yeah. There's no expectations.
Yeah, I just thought I think that's it's just
I think living in the world, what is life?
yeah.
People will say that it's going to work, raising a family, it's love, but actually a lot of life is expectations.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
and I think and I think the fact that it just it's like, if nothing else, that line, and actually the whole poem, just says like it's a real sort of testament to how close both of them actually are.
Yeah.
And it is just beautiful.
It is, isn't it? Well, the second poem I've chosen from Christina's is called Worth Telling. It's dedicated to her nephew, Tui. Now, Joe and I have seen a picture of Tui and can confirm that he is the most cute baba on the planet. He is ridiculously cute.
That does sound about right, yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's just ridiculously cute and gorgeous. But this is for Tui. This one's dedicated to her nephew, Tui, just in case his father dies or disappears from his life. There are things that she wants him to know about his father, because probably all he would ever hear is that he was a drug addict, that he'd been in jail. So this is worth telling for my nephew Tui. No one will tell you that your dad can climb pine trees, that he knows how far to throw a firecracker, is excellent at Nintendo. No one will tell you that your dad can leap backwards from a tire swing, sled faster than a pickup truck down Mercer Hill. No one will tell you that your dad can bridle ponies, write battle raps, and cook eggs for 300 men. No one will tell you, but your dad will try, that he loved you even before you were born, long before. He loved even the smallest idea of you. But I can tell you this because back when your dad and me were young, I asked him, what do you want to be when you grow up? And as quick as a greyhound, he answered, a dad. I want to be a dad. This woman needs to stop breaking my heart. It's just so beautiful, because none of us are single-sided. We are all multifaceted. If I died doing something like, if I got shot at a protest, which, to be honest, is probably how I will go. If I got shot at a protest, people would call me feminist. They may call me LGBT. They would call me black. They would call me woman, but they wouldn't know that I like to sing along to French opera. They wouldn't know that swimming is the one thing that makes me truly weightless and happy.
And again, I think I think that's one thing that both of the poems have, is it looks at that expectation, doesn't it? It looks at that one side. It looks at it. It doesn't, and then it's sort of almost to the point that it neglects that, even the idea that maybe there's something else.
Yeah, absolutely. That expectation again is coming through in this poem, isn't it?
Yeah.
That expectation of what Tui will think his dad was if
Yeah.
he disappears from his life in whatever manner. So yeah, oh, I love it. There's so much death as well going on at the moment, and we're going into lockdown again. We're in, I don't know what it's like where you are, but in Rhondda Cynon where I am, we've gone into lockdown again, which is just
Yeah. I'd heard that. Yeah, I'd heard that the that sort of area
it's us and Caerphilly.
had gone back into it. Yeah.
Yeah, us and Caerphilly have gone back into it, and having been in hospital as well this week, where there were people, the guy in the booth before me, they'd had to give it a deep clean because of COVID. It was madness, I tell you. But the fact that people are dying alone, it felt right, an acknowledgement that no one is ever really gone while we remember them.
No.
While we remember that they were good at Nintendo and could jump backwards off a tyre swing.
No, and then I quite like on the sort of flip side of that is that is that it only is that I like that it doesn't even sort of acknowledge the bit of like it's like how everyone will remember him. But then I think that is partly what's so lovely about it is like, fine, yeah, be that as it may, but this is who I remembered.
Yeah. That's a really lovely reading of it. I like that. I hadn't noticed that it hadn't mentioned, it had omitted how people will remember him. It's clever. So for my poem of the week, in keeping with the theme of death and sorrow, because it's nice and cheerful this week, the poem of my own I'm going to read is Supermarket. It was a response to a prompt in Poetry of the Time of Being Alone. That was it, Raina Griefer's poetry group that she set up straight after Uni Slam, which is brilliant. You should take a look at it. And it was my first attempt at talking about my own losses. I've always steered away from writing death poetry, but I gave it a go. This was my first attempt. So this is Supermarket. I'm on the floor in the grocery store, howling. Great globbing, sobbing, snotty trails on my jumper. Everyone has been so nice. It's just that my brave face is so damn tired. My arms ache from wiping their tears, and my throat burns with words unsaid. I make tea and hope they don't taste the salt water. Supermarket guy comes over to ask, is everything all right? No, supermarket guy, everything is not all right. I want Yorkshire pudding and I can't find the batter mix. He's smiling, but his eyes say confused. There's a tilt of the head from a passing old woman telling me I should just make my own. I didn't manage to make my own. I can't remember how. I don't know the ingredients. I can't focus on anything but the emptiness of my belly, except that I need to have yeast to know that something inside me is still alive. Thank you. So that was nice and cheerful. Yeah. But
wow.
So
what was the line? I think I really like the line. I think it's quite early on about the jumper.
Yeah, where is it?
It's like it feels.
It is great globbing, sobbing, snotty trails on my jumper.
Yeah, that's all right. And it just feels like I think. I don't know. I don't really sort of know how else to describe this, but I think it may not have been over the same thing, but I feel like everyone. I feel like that is very sort of universal, isn't it? I feel like everyone has sort of had that happen.
Yeah,
that's what I was at some point.
That's what I was trying to go for, to make people go, "Oh yes, I know that cry," because I've done.
Yeah.
So, This now coming up, thank you for that, Joe. Coming up is my favourite section. It is the guest interview. Woo! So let me tell you a bit about Joe Thomas. You've heard his bio. You've heard me say he's one of the best human beings on the planet. He is one of the best poets I've come across ever. He has such an economy with words that just make you think, what is he saying? Is he saying this? Is he saying that? No. And he's so softly spoken, and yet there is a real anger behind his words. You are going to love it. So, first question, Joe, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Why is poetry important to you? Little question.
That's a good question. But I think I think it really is as simple as like it's just sometimes I have got something that I do need to express, and poetry is the only way that I can do it more often than not.
Why do you think that is? Any ideas? I'm not expecting you to know.
Why do I think that is?
I know for me it's about distilling feelings and putting them out there with words, and prose doesn't do that quite as easily.
No, I think, yeah, I think you're onto something there, and then I think it's something similar. It's like I feel I quite like I quite like that you kind of sort of that I feel like you can sort of take your time more with it, rather than even if you were just going to talk to someone about something, it's like it still feels like that there's a sort of pressure, like okay, this is the conversation we need to have, rather than I feel like I'm like like you're a lot more sort of free to do it at like your own pace.
Yeah.
If you were to put it down in a poem.
Yeah, I totally agree. So are you writing at the moment? And if so, what sort of stuff are you writing?
I am writing, so I'm sort of carrying on with these prompts that we're getting from the Poetry in the Time of Being Alone and the Beehive Collective and what have you. But then I've also I'm also like sort of starting to think about writing again. I'm trying to get back into more sort of like funny things again.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I have been watching a lot of things where the plots don't usually make a whole lot of sense. Like it's like there's no explanation or anything given. So yeah, I am trying to look at some of them and I'm just like trying to sort of help it so my brain doesn't hurt as much.
Well, yeah, brain hurting is bad. So are you reading anything at the moment?
Not right now, I don't think. No.
I suppose you're taking a break because for our listeners, Joe graduated. We were in the same class and doing the same course at the same uni. Cardiff Met, who have just won Welsh University of the Year from The Guardian.
Yeah,
Yay!
like check us out.
I know, right? Check us out. So we just graduated. So taking a break from reading was probably, after 3 years of non-stop, was probably needed. I've only just started reading again. I just needed to not look at a book for a bit.
Yeah.
And really part of setting up this podcast is an read.
Yeah, I think I will wait now till we are getting sort of up and running again.
Yeah.
In sort of in like a few weeks' time.
Yeah, because we're both going on to do our masters. Yay! Stay in education as long as you can. It's the bomb. Right, okay, so now is the time for you to pick a poem and tell us a bit about the poem you've picked to read for us.
Okay, so I picked this. I picked the piece. It's Ellie Williams's Scrimshaw, which is like a short story, but I heard it on the radio because it was on as just sort of like background noise. But then I don't know why I tuned into it, but I just sort of heard that it was on, and I thought actually I do like that. So
Awesome.
so here it is. I pressed my face closer to my phone screen and imagined you doing the same. A whole town stretched between us, and I considered the surface of our separate skins blued, or bloom, or bluesed by pixel light as we typed against our own private darknesses. We dispatched small talk, sweet nothings, and your message said that you were feeling unhappy. We're all feeling unhappy, I thought, but also flushed with responsibility for taking charge of your state of mind. Thank you.
Oh, that's gorgeous. I can
Yeah,
see
it
why you
really
like
is.
it. Wow. That's absolutely stunning. That's just, it's short, sweet, bittersweet. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to read that a few times to let it all sink in, which is a good job. I'm going to put it in the show notes. So,
yeah, and I had a look at the full thing before coming on, and it's definitely worth reading if you get the chance.
Excellent. I shall definitely link to that in the show notes, so anybody who wants to read some more. I mean, seriously, these poets, like, I've only had the 2 on so far, but they have like kept that bar high on poems that they've chosen. Like, seriously, Sam last week, Joe this week. Madness. Love it. So now, my very good friend, it's time for us to give us one of your own poems. And which are you going to read?
Yeah,
today?
well, you had to say about the high bar, didn't you?
Your poem's amazing. Your poetry is amazing. Stop it. No imposter syndrome allowed on this podcast.
Yeah. So the poem I've chosen today is "Imaginary Friend." I'm an imaginary friend that's been thought into existence. Or maybe you wished hard enough. I don't know. You tell me. I'm the madman who fell from the sky, and before anyone says it, I'm not him. Mr. Love of my life or Mr. Man of my dreams aren't nearly chaotic enough. Mr. Right sentence runs too smoothly to come down to earth with a crash. How boring. No, I'm not here to be your first choice, but I know what I like you a lot, like more than a friend, but not, you get me, means when I hear it. Don't worry, it worked. I've been doing this long enough to know we wouldn't be here talking right now if it hadn't. If you're interested, here are the rules. Take food as a given. If you stalk my social media, if I find a heart react on a selfie I took with my cat because I'm in the picture, you're doing it wrong. If you scroll past my pictures, oh my god, he's so cute, I love him, and you didn't mean the dog, but come out with I want in, you're brave. I'll give you that much. If you try to make me choose, who's it going to be? Friend 1 or friend 2? When universal, by definition, means both of you. I'm sorry. It's not going to work out. In return, I can only give you a hug, one you can still feel long after it's finished. One that clings on and will not let you go. If I do it right, it should squeeze every you are not as good as you think you are thought until they pop. I write you a pretentious poem which at the end of the day is a glorified shitpost that I crafted to look like a love letter, because I don't know how else to say it. And yes, I do it better than most of your real friends ever could. We keep our streak going. We let months go by between conversations, which last for 2 messages, and unspoken you didn't have to answer, but thank you for coming back. No, being left unread is not rude. We haven't run out of small talk. It's an electric until next time. Love from an imaginary friend who was lucky enough to come to life. Thank you.
I love that poem. I absolutely love that poem. And I especially love the line about the hug that you can still feel, because that hug you gave me at Unislam back in March, I can still feel. Absolutely beautiful. The way you pull in elements of modern life to make it relevant to everybody and make them have a different look at what being left unread means. It's not that big a deal, and people lose their shit over it. First swear word on the podcast ever. Way. It was absolutely beautiful poem, Jo. Thank you very much for sharing it with us. So,
thank you.
Absolutely stunning. So, talking of absolutely stunning, next up we have lines that make you go ooh, as in stuff that hits you right in the feels. And this week I have a line from What If, which is also in How to Carry Fire by Christina Thatcher, and it talks about what happens if her brother dies, and it's really speaks to the idea of shared experience bonding people, and how you can hold on to what you know is real if somebody else knows about it too. If nobody else has experienced something you've experienced, you can think that you experienced it, but maybe not. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I'm making it up. Maybe this didn't happen. Maybe I'm going mad. Maybe they're right. So to have somebody else who shares an experience with you, especially a traumatic one, like your house burning down or your parents being bad or abusive or having a bad school life or whatever it is, whatever it covers, this line, what if you forget the fires we've seen? Just hit me right where I live. What if you forget the fires we've seen? I'm going to read the rest of the verse because I can. How we fought them, and I am left here to remember it all on my own. I get absolute goosebumps every time I read that line, because despite Improper Kindness, despite her brother being worth talking about and worth telling, Christina doesn't want a world where only she has to remember. Shared history is important and precious, which is why the fear and the desperation in that small line hit me right where I live. So I am very excited to have Christina on next week. By the way, really excited. So, time to do a shameless plug. It's shameless plug time. So, have you got a page? Have you got Insta? Have you got Twitter? Do you do a smashing macaroni pie that's better than Sam's? Because he says he does a great macaroni cheese. Or is your cottage pie to die for? Tell our listeners where they can find you.
Well, for a start, my food isn't quite as good as Sam's. But then you can find me on oh my god, I've drawn a blank. you can find me on Instagram and Twitter on the handle Joefish Thomas, or I've got a Facebook page that's Joe Thomas Writer.
And I will link to all of those. I'll put all those in the show notes as well. So if people want to see what you're up to, then they can. So, I've really enjoyed this. I really have.
Yeah, same here.
So this is the part where I would usually be publicising other people's events, but I think probably because we're so new, people haven't sent any in. So if you want any events publicised that you're running poetry-wise, just drop me a line on the email, dickensandquips@gmail.com, and I'll put a call out for you so people know. Also, don't forget to subscribe so I can stay in your loggles every time, and you'll get a little notification to say Dee's talking about stuff again. And yeah, and hopefully soon I'm going to have some exciting news from my publisher. So this is really, really good. So yeah, that's brilliant. So what else was I going to say? Thank you for listening. I couldn't believe when I looked at the stats on my pod thing how many people had actually taken the time to listen to last week's, and I hope you all come back and share with your friends if you enjoyed it. I have been Dee Dickens, and you have been absolutely marvellous as ever. You can get in touch with the show on Dickens and Quips at gmail.com. That's Dickens and Quips at gmail.com, or on Twitter and Insta at Dickens and Quips. If you want to chat to me personally, I am the Ponty Poet on Facebook, and not on Facebook, the Ponty Poet on Twitter, or Dee Dickens, poet and author on Facebook. And do let me know what's going on in your area. And if you want to come on the show, hit me up. I've booked guests in now for the next 4 weeks. It's going to be very exciting. We have a lot of very interesting, very wonderful poets joining us from the world of neurodiversity, from women, from the LGBT community. We have a lot of people joining us from these communities, because apart from wanting to show the world that it isn't all old or dead white men, I wanted to give a voice to the marginalized, and that's why I set this podcast up. So I want people to be able to say, I have something to say, and have a space to say it, which is why we got this. So next week, as I said, we will have Christina Thatcher on the podcast, and I will be reading to you from Audre Lorde. So looking forward to that. So I'm going to leave you with the prompt of the week, just in case anybody does want to send one in. No one did last week, which is a shame, but hey ho, you don't have to. It's just a podcast. There's no homework. You're not going to get like a fail or something. Just write when you want to. If you want to send it in, send it in. So this week, the prompt is fire extinguisher, because we had how to carry fire. Now we have how to put it out. So pop it in an email, dickensandquips@gmail.com. And if there's some come in, which I really hope there are, I will read one out on next week's show. Take care and try and make good choices. And if you can't make good choices, then that is what writing poetry is for. Thank you so much again, Joe, for coming and joining me. And I will say bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. And I'll see you next week. Bye.